All right. Hey, Simon. So it's been a long while. We're at another episode of the Berkeley Blockchain Accelerator podcast and video series. Simon runs a really cool company that I wanted to talk a lot about, and it's a company that went through the Berkeley Blockchain Accelerator. And so without further ado, just share a little bit about how you made it in the world and what got you to think up the startup that you're currently working on, which I must say is growing very rapidly.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Luke. And highly recommend the Berkeley program for any sort of early stage startups. Luke and the entire team is very helpful, and they provide resources and connections, and yeah, all of it was for free. Like they're just really helpful people, which is pretty awesome. So kudos to them first. In regards to my background, so I guess it kind of started when I was in college. So my parents had a small business, and then didn't do too well, so they declared bankruptcy, and I was sort of forced to drop out of college and self-fund my education and everything. And I didn't have enough money to pay for rent. I was working at a full-time job after I dropped out, and so I ended up starting a business selling Korean tacos to kids around campus, and that's how I, first started my business, which eventually became like a food truck catering business, and then also got a job in underwriting at a bank right after I graduated college. So I did go back and I got a full ride, and was able to graduate. But yeah, it got me really excited about blockchain and Bitcoin when I was working in banking, because this was around like 2014, and um, Bitcoin kept appearing on the news for all the bad reasons, like Silk Road and Mt. Gox. And I got really curious in the technology, and I started looking more into it. And I found out that pretty much the transaction fees could be minimal, using blockchain. And so I thought this was going to disrupt banking. I'm like, I have to get in. And so I happened to meet my co-founder, who was also at sort of like hardship, during college as well too. He self-funded everything, and two of us kind of clicked together. He's very technical. I'm a very business mindset. And then, yeah, since like 2015, I quit my job full time. And then, running a Bitcoin startup at that time was really tough, because like not a lot of investors were interested. And so we had to bootstrap for several years. And during that time, like I had to um, take all my profits I was, making from the food truck, and then try to sustain myself. And then this startup, and then also just like driving for Uber and Lyft at the same time to try to pay down my student loans as fast as possible, and just kind of that grind. And then, yeah, eventually, built our product. It was doing really well. And StormX, we first started off as a microtask platform, so you can earn crypto rewards by checking out different apps, doing surveys, and various different ways to or just earn a little bit of side income. And then we recently launched Storm Shop, which is easy way to earn cash back if you're shopping online, from everyday purchases from stores like eBay or Nike, and hotels.com and stuff like that. And so what we're really building overall is, trying to create a marketplace where users can just come and find ways to earn money online. And that's sort of stems from me and Calvin, where, both of us were always trying to find some sort of side hustle and just to support our daily lives. And there wasn't really like a single place where you can just come and find, different ways to just earn money. And so we have the microtask platform, the shopping platform right now, but eventually we also want to evolve that into freelance marketplace. So like Upwork or Fiverr, TaskRabbit, and things like that. And where we add value is because we are utilizing blockchain, the transaction fee is much lower. And so, when you're trying to send someone like $5 in India, for example, it's just a lot more cost efficient with blockchain, because you don't have to pay like $100 for wire transfer fees or foreign transaction spreads and all that stuff. So at the end of the day, like, how can we put more money into users' pockets? And it's a pretty big opportunity, because that everybody's lives at one point is going to need more money, whether it's side income or primary income or something like that. So we're really working on a big vision here. So
Yeah, I feel like you have an underdog story of winning. And instead of turning to some more obvious avenues of income, it seems like you grasped at frontier technology and decided to open up the gates to blockchain so that other people can live their underdog stories, other people can support themselves and find alternative ways to make money. But this was quite a frontier vision in frontier tech years ago. In the beginning, what gave you the conviction that despite all the burdens you had to shoulder, despite your situation, your family situation, your co-founder, despite the world, you should go this route?
Yeah. I mean, I really like, I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to earn money, you could, there's so many different things that you can do, right? And the reason I've been, doing this for like 7 years or so is just because I do truly believe it. I mean, I had a physical demand of needing more money myself during college, and it's not just us, but like the blockchain just really opens up to a global basis where people in emerging countries, like if you could give them like a few dollars a month, it helps them live, you know, like be able to afford food and rent and everything. And just the internet is opening up to be more of a global society, but the technology hasn't really caught up yet, and this is where we're sort of early into this marketplace, and then we really have a chance to just try to impact as many lives as possible. So if we can earn money, doing our job while we can help as many people as possible, I think that's really exciting. So
So, what was your original plan? I kind of want to move away from blockchain and think about the
yeah,
younger Simon. What was your original
yeah,
plan if everything went perfectly and you didn't have to hustle?
yeah. I mean, probably just so like my parents are Asian, and they just the mindset is kind of like go to school and get a good education, and then you'll get a good job kind of thing. So I originally wanted to be an accountant. I thought like, okay, if I could make six figures at a big four company, I would do really well. I started taking accounting in college. It was so boring. I don't know, just like I just wasn't challenged enough. So I ended up switching to finance. But and then I thought like, okay, investment banking is probably going to be the most like rewarding in terms of financial compensation. And so I started going into the banking route. And then when I was there, I just hated my job because it's mostly just running numbers and spreadsheets and stuff like that. And there was like no thinking involved. Like so I hated it. Just the job was so boring. I wanted to build something more creative. But yeah, I mean, I think the financial pressure definitely did motivate me to go to a different path. Like starting my first company when I was 19, that definitely had me thinking of life differently than I think most people, because I was kind of in survival mode, and also started realizing what the value of money is and like value of time and everything. And it's just like working a traditional 9 to 5 job wasn't really doing anything. It's just like I also had a lot of debt, not just because of myself, but my parents giving me some of it as well. And like, okay, if I can run numbers, right? Like if I was making X amount and it's going to take me like 15 years to pay off my student loans and everything, it's just like there's no way. um so yeah, I mean, it's just the entrepreneurial path is definitely more creative for me. I love it. It's like every day is a different day, and just we're solving complex problems and challenges rather than just sitting on my desk, waiting for 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. to come along so I can hop off, and just yeah, just I like being challenged.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can identify with your story because personally, I myself also went through college, paying my way through the whole process. And I know my mother at the time was in no position to help out in that way. And I kind of understood early on that certain tasks come out to more profit than other tasks when you're working as a wage laborer. So that's why when I started off, I was making ice cream sandwiches and working security at an ice cream store at night, but then also
Nice.
cleaning up the student gym and setting up the student gym, but also being an admin at the business school, doing really
Wow.
unimportant work, but it sounded important. And
Yeah.
stacking up all those different experiences, I realized later on, wow, I mean, it's going to take me ages to pay off anything at all. And I'm living a
Right.
subsistence lifestyle. And so I remember like knowing that a certain amount of peanut butter jelly sandwiches and ramen
Yeah.
would equate
Yeah.
to the kind of nutrition you would need. And
Right.
I remember just sitting back thinking something's wrong here. And so I took my first
Right.
commission-based sales job and I talked my way into it from the US to a European company. And the European company was like, why would we hire you? You're really young and you have no experience. So I offered them free labor with a very high commission rate, saying if I fail, then just let me go. But if I don't, then you can pay me commission at the end of the year.
Yeah.
but it takes some creative risks. It takes some ballsiness really to get there.
Right.
And I feel like your story, an inflection point is that taco idea and that
Yeah.
creation of a taco stand. And I feel like people don't really get the amount of, I guess, pride, maybe misplaced pride one can hold, and how it affects you when you're driving Uber, for example, in your own
Yeah.
neighborhood, or you might run into people, or when people might see you as otherwise successful or established, but really they're looking at you like, wow, this guy had to do a lot of weird things to get himself through school. This guy's doing a business that it seems to be a menial task. It seems to be a very low level wage labor job. And so I can imagine the kind of personal difficulties you overcame and the kind of dilemmas you faced. And so again, there are many options. You could have taken other jobs. You could have dropped out for a bit, taken a job and come back. I mean, you could have joined the military to have them pay for your school. You could have done many, many
Hmm.
things really.
Yeah.
But I find it admirable that you went the entrepreneurial route and succeeded. But for all those other people who could relate, for all the 19-year-olds who right now are considering, how do I figure it out in this capitalist world? What kind of advice would you give them? Things that you wish you would have been able to tell yourself earlier?
Yeah. I mean, just starting early. I mean, as early as possible is always better because you can take a lot more risks when you're younger, right? So I'm glad I started at 19, but I've seen people that started earlier, you know, like in their high school or stuff like that too, and they just have so much more experience. But it gets harder and harder as you get older, just because you start having families, you start having responsibilities that are outside just your own, and you know, risk taking is tougher and the opportunity cost is higher. So yeah, definitely, you know, a lot of entrepreneur like people told me I would fail because I'm too young, like I didn't know what I was doing, kind of thing. But it's just like, are you willing to learn? And I think that's the biggest thing that scares a lot of young people is, you know, people tell you you don't have enough experience, so you should go out there and build experience at a corporation or whatever. But that's not necessarily the right path either, because like at corporations or something, you might just see like a small fragment of the entire picture, or you know, you're just very entry level, so you're not going to get that much learning experience. Versus like if you're thrown out there in the jungle and you have to survive, like you tend to learn it faster. Another thing is like I was stuck in Seattle, trying to fundraise for the first like few years and stuff like that. And I think as a startup, like, you know, Bay Area is kind of a must. Like we didn't realize like we had a lot of traction before we got our first funding, and then we were trying to raise from like Seattle, and Seattle's actually like a terrible startup ecosystem. It's good if you're, you know, well established and there are a lot of good talent and stuff like that at a later stage companies, but it's there's not a lot of investors. Like the pool is smaller. Also, most of the like tech people here, you know, they're comfortable with Amazon and Microsoft, where they can, you know, offer a lot of, you know, compensation and stuff. It's hard to hire talent too. But once we like like we literally spent like our last budget to go at a pitch competition in like Las Vegas, and then everyone was like, "Wow, you have this much traction, you haven't got funding yet. Like, how's this possible?" And then we easily raised our first round from there. And so like sometimes like when you're stuck for a while, like you need a different perspective. And so just yeah, talk to as many people as possible that like have experience more than you, and just like where you want to be, and ask a lot of advice. It's probably also really good. And yeah, I think realizing, you know, getting out of Seattle would probably have saved us like 3 years, honestly. So yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I realize sometimes it's more about the timing and strategy than it is about execution and moving fast. I feel
Hmm.
like I have a personality where I just want to move fast. I want to get things
Yeah.
done. And once I set a course, I don't want to change because
Yeah.
distraction is the number one enemy to focus. But I think your story reinforces the realization I've had pretty recently, actually, that maybe choosing this place, not that place, saves you a chunk of years instead of you searching around and being lost. You know, maybe taking one extra meeting there instead of here
Hmm.
changes the course of your entire destiny.
Right.
Do you think? What do you think is the percentage split between luck, though, and strategy and timing?
Yeah, I do believe in this phrase that you create your own luck. I mean, like, there's plenty of times where we thought we were gonna fail, but we just kept every time there was a fire, we just keep figuring out how to put it out and how to thrive from that. And I mean, we've been through like, we're like the company's been operating for like 7 years now, and like there's been so many other startups, like whether it was like accelerator programs or like some, like, we've been through like multiple different programs and stuff, and like we're one of like the only ones that are alive. And it's because like most people give up after a certain point. But like, what if you didn't give up? Like, what if you found a different way? And it's just at a certain point, most founders get burnt out, and so choose the acquihire route rather than just trying to finish the whole thing. And it's really tough. And I think that really is why only 1% of the startups actually like make it after like 5 years, kind of thing. Just because like there are so many different ways that you could fail, not just running out of money, but like external risks, internal risks, like everything. And every day, is a different challenge, which could be fun to work with, but at the same time, it's very stressful.
Hmm.
And again, as you get older and if you have more responsibilities, like sometimes it's easier to just take the safer route. And yeah, I mean, it's just what path do you want to choose in life? Like, I really like to view my life as a video game. Like I used to play a lot of games when I was younger, but you look at all the reasons why people play like SimCity or like World of Warcraft or something like that. It's because you constantly level up, your assets or your weapons, or your character gets stronger and better and stuff like that. But if you could apply that to your own life, it's more fun because like you actually see just everything around you grow. So it's yeah. But,
Yeah. I mean, I resonate with what you say, and I feel like I sense a little bit of idealism or optimism in you. Perhaps that's why you didn't get burned out, and perhaps that's why you can dream big and communicate it to others. But at the same time, I think there's this undertone of stoicism and this Navy SEAL-esque toughness that is thrown about in startup life. The
yeah,
idea that it's like staring into a dark void and chewing glass. The idea that entrepreneurship is something hard that you just do and you just sort of brave it. You just,
yeah,
yeah, you just ruck it and you get there one day, maybe, if you're lucky and the stars align. I don't really believe in that. I think um, entrepreneurship is something beautiful. It's effectively about invention and creation. And
yeah,
so there should be fun involved. There should be uh, like this sort of energy that isn't just let's march towards the exit, let's march towards the IPO, let's do things in the most business centered way so that we
yeah.
can all make money. But I guess I'm curious from your point of view, having faced the life and death survival reality that if what I am doing doesn't work, then my life might not work in general. Do you align more with the optimistic creative side or more with the stoic tough side of how we view entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, like anyone that I've seen that was trying to do entrepreneurship for money have failed, right? So you really have to do it because you like what you're doing. Um, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it too, right? It's just like anyone that's like, oh, I want to do this because I want to IPO and be a billionaire, be the next Zuckerberg kind of thing. Like all those guys have failed because it's like at a certain point you get burnout and it gets too tired. And so yeah, just if you want that toughness, like you just have to really enjoy what you do every day, right? So.
So what is it you actually enjoy about building a startup? What is it you enjoy about cracking these complicated problems?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just like, what are we doing at the end of the day? And for us, it's trying to put as much money into like people's pockets around the world. And yeah, just like I know, I struggled, but and my co-founder struggled too. But there's millions of people around the world that are in the same situation as us that you just don't hear about. And if we could make at least a few of those people like their lives better, then so like we're all gonna die eventually, right? But it's just, can you help more people than you hurt or something? Then by the end of the time you die, right? And yeah, I think that's like a key motivator. I mean, for me too. Like, I mean, you probably got into crypto early. I got into crypto early, even outside of Storm stuff. Like I've been doing very well, and um, yeah, I'm very fortunate. So I'm not really driven by like, okay, I need to make money to do this kind of thing. I just do it because I enjoy it. So solving challenges, it's just at the end of the day, it's like a video game. Like how many people can we help? It's like a quest bar, right? It's just like it's out of there's like millions of people, and then it's like, oh, we help 500 people out of a million or something like that, and that's the exciting part. yeah, and then you talk to like, if you hear interviews from like some of the like athletes, you know, like the gymnasts and like Olympians and stuff like that, you ask them like, what keeps you going? Like, I don't think, I just do it. You know, I just try to, you know, just try to grow and then just try to continue. And like, you know, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant too, like they were the best at what they were doing, not just because they're, you know, freakishly athletic, which they were, but they were also the ones that got up at 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m. and were the first ones in the practice arena and just, you know, you know, staying like joining in early and staying late than everybody else and just trying to be the best. And if you have that mindset towards the startup as well too, and it's just, you know, the sky's the limit. So
That's true. Yeah. Well, I think the natural next question though is it sounds great to build something amazing. It sounds great to help the world and it sounds great to level up as a player in this RPG that we call Planet Earth. But
mm-hmm.
for many people, it's not a thing to have one passion or one specialty that drives all other things in day-to-day life. So I heard this recently from my tattoo artist actually. He was saying, dude, Luke, you love to be helpful. You love to make an impact. You're very hireable. But the thing is, you don't have that one thing which you wake up and go to sleep thinking about. And he was saying, I'm a tattooer. All I care
Mm-hmm.
about is getting source material. All I care about is tattooing. All I care about is my expression. And I will do anything to live this life. So I'm over here like, wow, is that what you need to succeed in life? Is that what you need
Yeah.
to be a real man, a real adult?
Yeah.
But then on my side, I do acknowledge that being more of a generalist affords the opportunity to adventure, to grow, to expose
Mm-hmm.
yourself, to make connections, and ultimately then specialize at some point in life.
Yeah.
But back to you, I think you rather early on had to decide this is what I'm about, this is what I'm building, and decide to keep going no matter what so that you could end up being whole economically and personally.
Yeah.
And now, in a position of more privilege, more prosperity, you still choose to walk the same path. I wonder, do you ever get distracted or lose focus or think maybe I want to be an actor or maybe I want to like
Yeah.
run a museum?
I mean, I still have plenty of aspirations. Like, yeah, I want to do more stuff. And, you know, like you said, like we spoke to, I think, you know, creating my own podcast and stuff. And like, there's other stuff. But I mean, I think the biggest problem, and you know, you being the generalist and accepting that yourself, that's awesome. You know, like, as long as you find what you want to do and enjoy doing that, I think that's what everyone should be going after, right? So we all have a short life, you know, 80 something years, you know, might seem long, but it's actually short. We need to really get up and do something that we enjoy, whether that's art or, you know, talking to people or starting a company or doing something. But it's just this financial need of, you know, being in debt and, you know, just living under liability and, you know, having all these needs. And that's usually what prevents people from being more riskier, right? So like maybe an artist just wants to draw, but they can't make money right away. So they're forced to sit in this cubicle that they hate every single day, just, you know, wasting their life away. But like one of the problems definitely is how materialistic our current generation is, and it's like the Instagram generation, right? So it was one thing, I use social media. The one thing I avoid is Instagram, because it's all like everyone's trying to showcase a life that's more extravagant than what it actually is, and that usually leads to more financial ruin, which leads to more debt, which leads you to get stuck in a terrible job that you don't like, from, you know, reaching your true passion. And yeah, like that is a live a minimal life, pay off all your debt so you could, you know, do whatever you want kind of thing. And then yeah, and then I think that's the most important part for life. But
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you about this generation and about the Instagram instant gratification type vibe. But at the same time, I wonder how many unsung heroes are out there whose songs
mhm.
should be sung. And that's partly why I wanted to run this podcast and video series with the Accelerator, because you included many entrepreneurs that I've come to know and love. These people don't have the bombastic personality of singing their own songs. They don't have
Mhm.
the self-promoting energy of making themselves influencers on Instagram. They don't have
Yeah.
the name dropping tendency of dropping a name every 2 sentences to make sure you know who their friends are. I think
Yeah.
with you, I've always admired the company. I've always admired where you're taking the company. And I thought you had this quiet sort of confidence, this quiet sort of energy that if you find out the story behind, well, it's a story that kind of stands on its own feet. But at the same time, do you think you're losing out on any opportunities or losing out on any growth for your company because you're over here being humble and being being just your own man?
I don't know. I think there's a couple of ways to approach it. Like, yeah, I mean, it's just I do like the West Coast is not like a really flex culture, right? Like in Seattle and like SF, like we just dress however it is, and then I'm actually planning to move to Miami soon, and everyone's in like Gucci, Prada, kind of like luxury kind of goods, and you don't know if they can afford it or not. But like at the end of the day, I think results matter, and it's just not, like maybe I'm not boasting like I could boast about how much money we raise or like what kind of partnerships we have and stuff like that, but rather than that, just like what's genuine. Like sometimes when I meet like new people and especially like I think you're Korean, right? So like Korean Americans, like, or not just Korean Americans, the Koreans in general, like be very judgy on like what's your job, what's your appearance, like how much money you make and stuff like that. But like people want to compare you because of that, and like I could tell them like, okay, I'm doing very well and stuff like that. But like rather than that, I just tell them like I'm a janitor, like, and see how you judge, like, because I don't really care about how much money you make or like what. If you're a nice person, I respect you, and if you're like passionate about something and you want to build something, then I'll like very much respect you and want to help if I can and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just, or like if I say like I work at a startup, people think like, oh, I'm at a garage kind of thing, and yeah, it's just, but it doesn't really matter, it's just like as long as I keep focusing and from like we keep hitting our metrics and we keep growing from a company perspective, like doesn't, I don't really care about how people judge me or anything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, when you move to Miami, you got to let me know. I'm actually in Miami. I'm based in Miami.
Oh really? Oh wow, gotcha. So we gotta
Hmm.
catch up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll hang out a lot, I'm sure. And you're
Yeah.
correct about people rolling around and flexing. It is the culture here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember actually when I first moved, I moved here with a good friend, Michael, who's a mentor at BBX, but he's also the head of marketing at TrueFi slash Trust Token. And it
Mhm.
was so funny. We walked by this really expensive Lambo, and there's a crowd around it. People are taking
Uh-huh.
pictures. So it's a celebrity moment. And as we walk by, he just casually says, "Oh, don't worry about it, guys. It's leased." And like
Oh.
you, you watch the two Miami bros just go quiet, and everyone
Yeah.
just realized, wait a second, they're just flexing for the purpose of flexing this weekend.
Right.
So I think the surface level perception is not usually the accurate way to see people,
Yeah.
especially in startup life. If you say you've raised from XYZ investors or you have
Yeah.
this kind of traction or you see a wide, potentially amazing market forming in front of you, I mean, um, at the end of the day, the past track record speaks and the person's character speaks.
Yeah. I mean, I've also seen a lot of companies that brag about like just, oh, they raise from like Sequoia or these like top VCs and stuff, and they fail. If that's all they're track, like if all they can do is that, and it attracts a lot of competitors first, and then two is like, okay, if they don't have anything in the meat like behind it, then it's just nothing special and it's not going to last for a while. But I've also seen like several of our like I've had really good mentors that are CEOs of their own successful companies, and one of our mentors is never raised a dime. Generates like I think like 20 or $50 million in profit, and he owns all the equity. It's just like very quiet, but he makes like 8 figures a year in terms of profit. Like it's just just like, but no, there's no like fancy press releases or anything like that. But he's probably doing far better than any company that's even valued at a unicorn status, because the equity is so diluted, like the exit might not happen, like investor rights and stuff like that. So like you could be showy and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, like, are you really as successful as you're trying to, or you're just trying to do it for show kind of thing? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Actually, the department head at the Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology, which houses the Berkeley Accelerator. He made a comment which I still believe in. He said many a professor would take their PhDs from some Ivy League and consider it a license to be smart forever without ever updating their knowledge base or doing other things that are real and substantive. So I feel like that's pretty similar to those in the Silicon Valley, who I consider to be entrepreneurs as lifestyle type people, who are very good at promoting self, who are very good at networking in the right places, who go to all the right parties, and who are very
Yeah.
good at raising money. But
Yeah.
ultimately, they're all about the journey. And it
Right.
just seems as though they continuously pop up. They get themselves onto
Yeah.
Forbes 30 under 30.
Yeah.
But what is the value of Forbes 30 under 30
Right.
in the face of real value you can create in the world? So I
Right.
kind of agree with everything you say. And I feel like the audience probably has a good sense of who you are at this point and also
Yeah.
what your company does. But I want to widen the scope because as you walk this path, you mentioned some mentors you've had. And I think really we owe it to sort of the next generation to send the elevator back. And
Yeah.
whoever does so, they're really good people. They're the people who build up the next generation.
Hmm.
And yeah, if you could name some mentors, some people who helped you along the path and how, maybe they would also feel like, oh, I got a shout out. That's cool. But more importantly, students at Berkeley or entrepreneurs anywhere in the world would understand what kind of mentors to seek, what kind of relationships to build based upon your experience.
Yeah. Especially for fundraising, if you could raise funds from, like, I mean, you could raise money from anywhere, but like if you could raise funds from people that have actually built companies rather than just focusing on VCs, that's definitely been the most helpful for us. Because like rather than VCs trying to say, oh, like, because they'll give you like all these like suggestions and like, oh, if like the certain metrics aren't going the right way, and they'll get angry or whatever. But if you have like founders who've actually gone through the struggle and they'll give you really helpful advice, right? Because like I would say like 9 out of 10 days, if my work is trying to solve like putting out fires rather than like actually like good things happening all the time. So like if you have like issues, then you could ask some of the mentors that just like, hey, what do you do for legal, what do you do for like company growth, hiring, like competition, like what do you do for all this stuff, and like they can provide actual good you know advice rather than just a lot of noise that causes a distraction and can cause a lot of time away from you as well. So yeah, definitely, like if you can find someone in your industry that could help you, it's definitely the best. But find C-level execs that have been there and have done that. They'll provide the best resources, and yeah, you could provide like early advisor equity and stuff like that too, and incentivize them, or or just there's just nice people that do it for free all the time too, and that's yeah, definitely find good startup founders. Yeah.
So who are these people in your life and how did you actually get to connect with them and bring them on board?
Yeah, so I think yeah, so we have three guys that are like actually in Seattle that are really helpful for us. So one of them is Bill Shahar, he's the CEO of Bitrix, and we met him at a Bitcoin meetup in like a library. So this was like 2015 or something. It was super early, and like there were only 10 people in the entire city of Seattle that was interested in Bitcoin, and we're all just like in this library together, and it was like a very small room. And then yeah, he was one of those guys that was there, and he was just so smart. So I just asked him like, "Hey, would you be open for coffee? Like, this is what we're building, and just love your advice." And then yeah, he was very open to just grabbing coffee once a month and just being helpful and chatting. And then eventually became our first investor. And then each time we ran into something, where it seemed like the world was on fire, and like okay, like actually we and like the last bear market, like 2018, 19, right? Like a lot of companies were struggling. Like we were struggling pretty hard too. Like we had a pretty high burn, and the product wasn't doing too well because everyone lost interest in crypto, and like we had some really bad hires that really try to mess us up and stuff like that. But anyway, like then we had several employees. I know we had to do a big downsize, like 80% downsize of our company to try to survive. And then we also had several employees leaving because of that. They're like, oh, you're done. This is like, you might as well give up. And so like everyone around me is telling me, like, because we had executives and stuff that were a lot older than I was doing. Everyone around me is telling me, okay, you're done. Like there's no coming out of this. Like you should shut down. But then, Bill's like, oh, don't worry, like everyone goes through this. Like the key difference is like whether if you survive it, then you're gonna be one of the guys that make it out, and like if you don't, then just whatever. But at the end of the day, you can just always find another job. But he will actually like helped us, provide advice that was very different from like just people normally that are just working, because like they'll be like, oh, this is the end, but it's like, oh, this is nothing compared to all the stuff that I've seen. It's just and then that really helped us. And then we have two advisors that run their own companies too, like Check and CK, and they run some of the mobile and at like the just like the gift card stuff. Like, I mean, they're related to our business, but they've scaled businesses from like zero to where they are at too, and they've gone through everything and just everyday stuff. Just really helpful in terms of like just strategy, hiring, finding resources and everything. Just like there's so many different aspects of running a company, and they have a lot of experience. So just for me too. So I try to be helpful for companies that are, early stage startups as well too, because I've gone through it all too. Like I've been screwed over by people, like we've almost ran out of money multiple times. Like, and we've also gone to like scaling really well, like what's been working really well and who to avoid and who's actually going to help, and providing a lot of good resources to some of, my peers that are trying to start up their own company in this year and stuff like that too. So, like you said, it's a lot of it is about giving back too. And then some of these guys actually did really well, and they're like very huge, and now they're helping me as well too. And it's good to get that feeling. Yeah.
I see. So what I'm hearing is that in the beginning, there was an impetus to generate some money because of survival and because of family responsibilities and responsibilities to self. But after that, you got the bite, the startup bug bit you, and decided maybe life is more than just working a 9 to 5. Maybe I can create something and take risks. So jump into this early world of crypto, at which point you sort of landed on this concept, which grew, but this initial concept, you wanted to provide economic access and economic opportunity to all people around the world. And having marched forward with that vision in mind, you attracted a lot of interest from good people that frankly had more experience than you at the time and still do. And you were able to surround yourself with these black belts, join the higher and higher arenas, and all while harboring your own aspirations and your own doubts, but keeping focused.
Yeah, definitely, to your point. Yeah, you hit the nail. And just like, and I think friends, like, or family members or anyone that's nearby could be a distraction too if they don't truly understand. Because if you're in a startup world, like in the beginning, I definitely broke. They're just working really hard, and there's not many results that show up, and then there'll be a lot of people that talk behind your back and stuff like that. And a lot of times, like that's the biggest root of failure. But you have to ignore the noise. Like you just block off everything. Kind of like when I was driving for Uber and Lyft, definitely people judge me and stuff like that. And when I was selling tacos and all that stuff, but just you have to learn how to block the noise, and then also find to be in a circle around where people have gone through that cycle and have gone through where you are at, so you'll have more to relate and more to learn from, because that's the only way that you'll upgrade in life for sure.
Yeah. And back to what you said about being from Korean culture. Yeah, I feel like that's a particular kind of culture, and the eyes of the world are upon you, especially if you're a university level student. And the moms and dads always like comparing, oh, their kid went here and their kid went there and their kid became a doctor and my kid is doing what? So, you really came through a lot of chaos and struggle. So over the next like 8-ish minutes, I want to turn this conversation more towards the audience. So first off, we're gonna say some things that are potentially plugs. Say some things that are really great and awesome about what you're doing and what you're up to. So hey, if there's any great talent listening, they'll start to email you like, can I work for you? If there's any great investors, they'll start to email you like, can I get in? But after that, I want you to give some rapid fire advice. I'll feed you the questions. We'll do 1 sentence answers. Just so if there's any aspiring entrepreneur, they get the knowledge from you that they need without having to take you to coffee, which I'm sure you're willing to do as well.
Yeah.
But in the in the grand scheme of things, with StormX, what are some of the big wins you have? Some of the metrics that if you see on camera, then people will go, "Wow, I see."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, as a company, we have been doing pretty well. I mean, if we want to go into fundraising, right, we've raised $45 million so far. We're one of the largest crypto applications out there with over 4 million users right now. And um, yeah, our focus right now is around Storm Shop, which, you can earn cash back to earn when you shop from stores like Nike and eBay, and stuff. But what's really different is like Honey and Rakuten, they do this in the traditional space. Honey was recently acquired by PayPal for 4 billion, but they're only in 4 countries, and that's because fiat is so expensive to send across. So we're already in 150 countries, and so we can, our potential to scale is a lot greater than what Honey is. So I think our potential is much greater than that. But then, we also came out with more ways for users to have better earnings, so that we have just a regular cashback, which everyone offers, but we have a rewards membership. We also have staking, utilizing DeFi, and then it's just more competitive to use our application over anyone else's. And then we recently partnered with the Portland Trailblazers. Actually, it's right there, but we're their first crypto company to be a Jersey Patch partner, and partnering with them for the next 5 years. And we're just a lot of like cool mainstream adoption stuff. But yeah, the cool thing about our product is really not we're not focusing. A lot of crypto products right now are focusing on like the thousands of existing DeFi users, but we're focusing more on the millions and billions of like normal people that could use our platform to earn crypto without having to risk their money buying it. So yeah, just a little, little 1 minute blurb, I guess.
Yeah, that's impressive. I wanted to keep it towards the end of the chat because I wanted people to get to know you for who you are and
Yeah.
to get a sense for your personality. But yeah, I mean, we do need to say the big numbers at some point. So there it is. The audience can see for themselves. Well, so let's say there's a student or a young person or someone who is in a career transition, someone who might be later in the age
Mm.
demographic, but you know, it's all situations where a person doesn't have much to go forward with. Their network might not be so robust, probably not, but they have big dreams that maybe in the next decade, maybe in the next decade, I could also do what Simon did. I could also climb up and do something cool and love my life. Um, what do you think you would say to these people to find their first rung in the ladder?
Yeah. First, you need a really good co-founder, someone that has all the skill sets that you lack. Solo entrepreneurs will fail most of the time. It's impossible to like do everything by yourself. At least one co-founder, highly suggest. And then two, if you are working corporate right now and you want to venture out, like do it on the side first. And so you start building a base and you start figuring out, okay, where are all the problems? And then you can get yourself to an income level that you feel comfortable, like at least eating ramen versus quitting cold turkey. Because oftentimes people just quit their job, and then they have nothing, and then they run out of money. So they have to go back to working corporate, which at that point, then it really discourages them from being able to build another company again. So yeah, start small, start, part-time, and then it is a lot of work, but at the same time, it will be that much more rewarding. And then third, like if you're really early and you don't know a lot about, tech or startups in general, which I was in the same case to join accelerators, like the Berkeley accelerator was like a good one too. And yeah, I mean, Berkeley is like free. So, I mean, there's ones that take dilution and stuff like that, but there's also, I mean, but I say this with caution because there are a lot of accelerators that will waste your time. I would probably say 95% of them will waste your time because they'll pretend like, oh, we have all these investor interests or whatever. They'll just take a huge chunk of your equity, and then you'll never be able to raise another round because there's so much dilution off your cap table. So be careful. Like I would definitely suggest, like, yeah, Berkeley is great. I mean, like, honestly, like it's free just resources. They'll just connect you. But if you want to do like equity dilution, like other than like Y Combinator and like maybe, Techstars or 500 startups, like the other ones really aren't really worth looking into. They are competitive, but it could be worth it as well too. But there are a lot of resources. Yeah, find entrepreneurs, just ask for coffee, but don't waste their time. Just like, yeah, just because people will get mad if you waste their time too, but like actually have an agenda and in terms of asking for advice and stuff like that. So yeah, that's just that's the four things that I would say.
Yeah, that's a robust set of like guide points to get started. Okay. When you're looking for a co-founder, you say that you should have complementary skills or even skills that are highly divergent. So you have that diversity, you have that full scope, but entrepreneurship is also about learning. And so I'm sure there's people out there who are thinking, well, I don't know what a cap table is or how to manage one.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do financial projections. I've never been in investment banking. I don't know how to manage a POS system, point of sale, or to do inventory. I don't know how to code. I don't know how to design. I don't know anything. And so what would you advise in terms of A, picking up those skills yourself, B, finding a co-founder, and maybe C, hiring for these skills, although that takes capital, so maybe not.
Yeah. Usually for tech, you want like at least one business, one tech person. And for me, it was like business, like, yeah, like in the beginning, I didn't know anything about a cap table and stuff like that. So we joined some accelerators that were non-dilutive and they taught us all that. They also gave us like 20 grand worth of legal credits that we were able to use to help us launch our first cap table and get our articles of incorporation and signing up our Delaware C Corp and all that stuff. And then, so yeah, it is good resources to do that. Honestly, I just did a lot of reading and YouTube videos through like Y Combinator blogs and like just videos on like startups and stuff. There's so many resources out there. The internet is really amazing if you don't spend all of the time on watching TikTok videos and cat videos. Like there's an unlimited resource out there. Like you look at those like old like war Asian movies and stuff like that. Like you always have like the kings and the higher ups reading books and like reading strategy on like tactics and stuff like that. And way back in the day, like only the elites had access to education and books and stuff like that. Now like anybody has access to education as long as you look for it. And so there's resources out there. Yeah, so just start reading and learning. And yeah, if you're wanting to be a developer and coding, then you have to keep upgrading because technology keeps changing and just there's so many different technologies and you have to keep, I mean, even if you think you're the best like coder, for example, you have to just keep reading on like, okay, how do you save money on AWS infrastructure bills and stuff like that? And there's always ways to improve. So
Okay, last question. Last question is this. So when I think about entrepreneurship, startup life, based on my stories and the stories of people I care about, I know, it seems like quite a difficult lifestyle, quite a big potential for risk to turn into failure and catastrophe. It's much the same way, in my opinion, with military recruitment. These people are saying, hey kids, you can join the military and go to war and probably you can lose a
yeah,
leg or an arm, but it's going to be really fun and you'll be able to build brotherhood and it's going to be great.
yeah,
Join. And people do. So I wonder if there's a recruitment call for entrepreneurs. If you could tell the people in the world your version of a recruiter's pitch as to why they might want to jump onto the entrepreneurial bandwagon, why they might want to jump onto tech, and go the hard route that you did, then what would you
yeah,
say in the most optimistic and idealistic way?
yeah. I mean, if you hate your job right now, if you're sitting in the cubicle thinking, I hate my job, like, why am I here? That's the great like pitch for entrepreneur. Like, do you want to build something that you actually enjoy? If that's the case, then yeah, start a company. If you're willing to do that for half your pay or whatever and take some sacrifices, but make you exponentially happier, then definitely take that choice. Because again, going back to it, life is short, and you want to do something that you actually enjoy. And like one of the cool like perks that we have on our company is, we're 100% remote, and if you look at just like the traditional 9 to 5 corporate world, like everyone spends, saves money and they save their vacation days. So for 2 weeks, they can travel anywhere they want in the world, right? Like that's just how it is. But for us, it's like, okay, we actually started doing this like kind of hacker house thing. So we go to different parts of the world and gather together and live together for like a month or two and, hyper focus and just get to travel. So, I mean, honestly, like if we can help you provide the travel, by going to somewhere exotic, and then also living, working together, and touring, stuff like that. But then you can spend your actual free time just resting or doing whatever you want, learning a new skill, or playing golf or chess. Like, that's much better. And we highly encourage people to just actually travel, like live in different parts of the world, because we are remote. As long as you do your job, and if you can find a job like that supports that and supports remote work where you can work anywhere, then you should totally find one of those jobs. And this is a sales call because we are recruiting several people as well too. But it's a great perk. Like, if you could, like I for me, like, I'm Korean American, but I never like lived in Korea, and then I never really lived in Korea until last year, which for like 3 months, and it was a great experience. Got to experience some of the culture and stuff like that, and then if you could live like in Europe for 3 months, and then live in Asia for 3 months, and Australia, and then US, like, why not, right? If that's part of your job, like, yep.
Wow. Yeah, this is compelling. I'm feeling my heart start to beat faster as well. Yeah, this is a compelling
Yeah,
pitch. Dude, thanks so much for coming on. I really
yeah,
look forward to seeing your own podcast as well. We'll promote it all across Berkeley channels too. I mean, you have access
awesome.
to our everything forever. And if we
Yeah,
can be of help, you can always call me or call anyone in Berkeley. But biggest takeaway here for me was that you moved to Miami, which means
yeah. Definitely, yeah. Sounds great. Yeah, thanks for having me, Luke. It was fun. Yeah, thanks.